The small exploration ship spiraled through the purple atmosphere of the unknown planet. Sparks flew from the control panel as Zara fought with the steering controls. Her dark hair whipped around her face as the ship shook violently. "Come on, hold together," she whispered to her dying craft. The engines screamed their final protest before cutting out completely. The ground rushed up to meet her faster than she wanted. The crash sent her world spinning. Metal groaned and twisted around her. When the dust settled, Zara found herself hanging upside down in her pilot seat. Blood dripped from a cut on her forehead. Her right leg throbbed with sharp pain. She managed to free herself from the wreckage and stumbled outside. The alien world stretched before her in breathtaking beauty. Crystal formations jutted from the ground like frozen lightning. 2 moons hung in the lavender sky, casting everything in soft, ethereal light. But beauty could hide danger. A low growl echoed from the nearby forest of silver trees. Zara's hand went to her sidearm, but the holster was empty. She must have lost it in the crash. 3 creatures emerged from the tree line. They looked like wolves, but their bodies glowed with bioluminescent patterns. Their eyes burned like amber flames. They circled her slowly, sensing weakness. Zara backed against her ruined ship. Her leg gave out, and she fell to one knee. The creatures moved closer, their growls growing louder. She closed her eyes and thought of Earth, of her family, of all the things she would never see again. A battle cry split the air. A figure leaped from the rocks above, landing between Zara and the predators. He was tall and lean, with skin that shimmered like moonlight on water. Strange markings covered his arms, pulsing with soft blue light. The alien warrior held a curved blade that hummed with energy. He moved like liquid lightning, striking at the creatures with incredible grace. His weapon cut through the air in perfect arcs, driving the beasts back. One creature lunged at him. He spun aside, his blade finding its mark. The beast dissolved into sparkling dust. The other 2 creatures whined and retreated into the forest. The warrior turned to face Zara. His eyes were the color of deep ocean water. They held no malice. He spoke in a language of musical tones that she didn't understand. But his voice was gentle. Zara tried to stand, but her injured leg buckled. The warrior caught her before she could fall. His touch was warm and surprisingly gentle for someone who had just fought off dangerous predators. He looked at her wound with concern, then gestured toward the forest. When Zara hesitated, he placed his hand over his heart and spoke a single word that somehow she understood meant safe. Something in his eyes told her to trust him. As darkness gathered around them, she nodded. The warrior carefully lifted her in his arms, carrying her away from the wreckage toward an unknown future. Behind them, the 2 moons continued their eternal dance across the alien sky, witnesses to the first meeting between 2 hearts from different worlds. Healing Hearts, the warrior's home, was hidden within a grove of singing trees. Their leaves chimed like silver bells in the gentle breeze. A small dwelling was carved directly into the trunk of the largest tree. Glowing softly from within, he carried Zara inside and placed her carefully on a bed of woven moss. The interior was simple but beautiful, decorated with crystals that provided warm light. Strange symbols covered the walls, telling stories in a language she couldn't read. The alien warrior knelt beside her injured leg. He spoke softly, his voice like flowing water. Though she couldn't understand his words, his tone was reassuring. He began to tend to her wounds with practiced skill. From a wooden bowl, he produced a paste that glowed faintly green. When he applied it to her cuts, the pain immediately began to fade. Zara watched in amazement as the wounds started to close before her eyes. "Incredible," she whispered. The warrior looked up at her voice, tilting his head curiously. She pointed to her healing leg and smiled. "Thank you." Understanding flickered in his ocean blue eyes. He pressed his hand to his chest and said, "Keth." Then he pointed to her with a questioning expression. "Zara," she replied. Touching her own chest, Keth repeated her name carefully, his accent making it sound like music. The way he said it sent an unexpected warmth through her chest. Over the following days, Keth cared for her with gentle devotion. He brought her fruits that tasted like starlight and water from a spring that sparkled with tiny lights. He never left her alone for long, always returning with something to help her heal. They began to communicate through gestures and simple words. Keth taught her the names of things in his language, while she shared words in hers. When she said star, he pointed upward and spoke his word Vethra. When he showed her a flower, she taught him to say beautiful on the third evening. As they sat watching the twin moons rise, Keth began to speak in his musical language. Though Zara couldn't understand the words, she felt their meaning in her heart. He was telling her about his people, the Villani, who lived in harmony with their world. Zara spoke of Earth, of cities that reached toward the sky and oceans that stretched to the horizon. She told him about her job exploring the stars, searching for new worlds and new life. Keth listened intently, his eyes full of wonder. That night, when a storm brought purple lightning and silver rain, Keth stayed close to comfort her. They sat together near the crystal light, sharing the warmth of each other's presence. Zara found herself studying his face, the way his markings glowed softly when he was content. When she shivered, Keth wrapped a soft blanket around both of them. Their shoulders touched, and Zara felt electricity that had nothing to do with the storm outside. Keth's breath caught slightly, as if he felt it too. Neither of them spoke, but something had changed between them. The space that separated their worlds seemed smaller now, bridged by something deeper than words. Zara's leg healed completely within a week, thanks to Keth's care and the amazing properties of his medicine. She could walk without pain, but she found herself reluctant to leave the peaceful grove. Keth seemed to sense her restlessness. One morning, he gestured for her to follow him. They walked together through paths that wound between the singing trees. Deeper into his alien world, he showed her wonders that took her breath away. Waterfalls that flowed upward, defying gravity with graceful spirals. Gardens where flowers bloomed in response to their footsteps, creating patterns of color that followed their movements. At a crystal lake that reflected the twin moons even during daylight. Keth taught her to skip stones across its mirror surface. Zara laughed as her stones created ripples of light that danced. Like auroras across the water, your world is magical, she said. Spreading her arms wide to encompass the beauty around them, Keth smiled, understanding her tone, if not her words. He picked a flower that glowed like captured sunlight and tucked it gently behind her ear. His fingers lingered for a moment against her cheek. Zara's heart skipped. They found a meadow where the grass was soft as silk and silver as starlight. Lying side by side, they watched clouds drift across the purple sky. Keth pointed out shapes in the formations. Teaching her the names of creatures from his world's mythology, Zara showed him pictures on her salvaged tablet device. Images of Earth she had saved. Keth marveled at photographs of snow-capped mountains and vast deserts. When he saw pictures of Earth's single moon, he looked puzzled, holding up one finger with a questioning expression. "Just one moon," Zara confirmed. Laughing at his amazement that evening, they built a small fire near the lake. As the flames danced between them, Zara found herself telling Keth about her loneliness. How she had spent years traveling between stars but never finding a place that felt like home. Keth listened with the patience of someone who understood the ache of solitude. When she finished speaking, he took her hands in his. His touch was warm and electric, sending shivers up her arms. He spoke softly in his musical language. And though she didn't understand every word, she felt his meaning. He was telling her that she was no longer alone. The twin moons reflected in the lake as Keth leaned closer to her. Zara's breath caught as his face neared hers. His eyes asked a question, and her slight nod gave the answer. Their lips met in a kiss that bridged two worlds. It was gentle at first, tentative, then deeper as they discovered this new language they both understood perfectly. When they broke apart, Keth rested his forehead against hers, his eyes closed. The markings on his skin glowed brighter, pulsing in rhythm with his heartbeat. Zara traced one of the glowing patterns with her fingertip, marveling at how it responded to her touch. Keth shivered at the contact, his eyes opening to meet hers with an intensity that made her stomach flutter. They held each other close as the fire burned down to embers. neither wanting to break the spell that had woven itself around them under the alien stars. Danger and protection there. Peaceful days were shattered when Keth's people came to find him. 3 Villani warriors emerged from the forest, their faces marked with worry and fear. They spoke rapidly to Keth in urgent tones, their musical language filled with harsh notes. Keth's expression darkened as he listened. When they finished speaking, he turned to Zara with anguish in his ocean-blue eyes. Though his words were in his language, she understood the gravity of the situation. Danger, he said in halting English, one of the words she had taught him. He gestured toward the direction of his village. Home, danger. The warriors looked at Zara with suspicion, clearly uncomfortable with her presence. One of them argued with Keth, pointing at her and shaking his head. But Keth stood firm, moving protectively in front of her. Despite the language barrier, Zara understood. Enemy raiders were threatening Keth's village, and his people wanted him to abandon her and return to fight. But he wouldn't leave her behind. I can help, Zara said, touching Keth's arm. She gestured to herself, then toward his village. Fight, together. Keth's eyes widened. He shook his head vehemently, clearly not wanting to put her in danger. But Zara was determined. She had been a pilot and explorer, not a warrior. But humans had survived by protecting those they cared about. She ran back to her crashed ship and salvaged what she could from the wreckage. Her emergency kit contained items that might help. Energy cells that could be rigged as explosive devices, a portable shield generator, and her multi-tool that could be programmed for various functions. When she returned, Keth saw the determination in her face. After a moment of internal struggle, he nodded reluctantly. Together, they followed the warriors through the forest toward his endangered village. The Villani settlement was beautiful, with homes grown into living trees and gardens that sang with wind chimes, but now it was under siege. Dark-skinned raiders with glowing red tattoos surrounded the village, their weapons crackling with dangerous energy. Keth's people had taken shelter, but they were outnumbered and outgunned. The raiders' leader, a massive figure covered in scars, demanded the surrender of the village's sacred crystals. Zara studied the situation with tactical eyes. She whispered a plan to Keth, using gestures and the few words they shared. His eyes lit up with understanding and admiration for her human ingenuity. While Keth created a distraction by challenging the leader to single combat, Zara circled around behind the raiders. She planted her improvised explosive devices at strategic points and activated her shield generator. The battle began with Keth and the raider leader locked in fierce combat. Keth's blade sang through the air, but his opponent was strong and brutal. Around them, raiders and Villani warriors clashed in desperate fighting. At the perfect moment, Zara triggered her devices. Explosions rocked the raiders' positions, throwing them into confusion. She charged through the chaos, her shield deflecting energy blasts, fighting her way to Keth's side. Together, they fought like partners who had trained for years instead of days. Keth's graceful warrior skills, combined with Zara's human determination and technology. When raiders tried to flank Keth, Zara was there to protect his back. When her shield failed, Keth's blade defended her. The tide of battle turned. Faced with unexpected resistance and the loss of their advantage, the raiders retreated into the forest. The village was saved. As the dust settled, Keth pulled Zara into his arms, both of them breathing heavily from the fight. His people stared in amazement at the human who had risked everything to help them. In that moment, Zara realized she had found something she'd never expected among the stars, a place where she belonged, and someone worth fighting for. The village celebrated their victory long into the night. The Villani people, once suspicious of the strange human, now welcomed Zara with gratitude and respect. They offered her the finest foods and sang songs in her honor. But Zara's heart was heavy. In her pocket, her emergency beacon had begun blinking steadily. A rescue ship from Earth was approaching, drawn by the distress signal that had activated during her crash. She found Keth sitting alone by the crystal lake where they had shared their first kiss. The twin moons reflected in the water, just as they had that magical night. He looked up as she approached. She saw her own sadness mirrored in his eyes. "Rescue ship," she said quietly, showing him the blinking beacon. "My people, coming." Keth nodded slowly. He had learned enough of her language to understand. They sat together in silence, watching the moons dance on the water's surface. "I don't want to leave," Zara whispered, tears starting to fall. "This world, your people, you. I've never felt like I belonged anywhere before." Keth took her hands in his thumb gently wiping away her tears. He spoke in his musical language, pouring his heart into words she felt rather than understood. He was telling her that she had changed his life, that she had shown him love could exist between different worlds. The rescue ship's lights appeared in the purple sky, growing brighter as it approached. Soon, Zara would have to choose between the life she had known and the love she had found. "Come with me," she said suddenly, gripping Ket's hands tightly. "We could explore the galaxy together. I could show you Earth, the other worlds I've seen." Keth smiled sadly and shook his head. He gestured toward the village where his people depended on him. His duty was to protect them, just as hers had been to explore the stars. The ship landed near the lake, its engines disturbing the perfect reflection of the moons. Human voices called her name, searching for their lost pilot. Zara stood, torn between two worlds. She looked at the ship that represented everything familiar, then at Keth, who represented everything her heart desired. "I love you," she said in his language. The words she had learned from listening to his heartfelt speeches under the stars. Keth's eyes widened with joy and pain. He stood and pulled her close, their lips meeting in a desperate kiss that tasted of goodbye. When they broke apart, Zara made her decision. She took the beacon from her pocket and threw it into the lake, where it sank beneath the moonlit surface. "I'm staying," she called out to the search team. "Tell Earth I found what I was looking for." The rescue ship's captain argued with her over the radio. But Zara's mind was made. She had spent years searching the galaxy for new worlds, never realizing she was actually searching for a place to call home. Keth stared at her in amazement. She had given up everything she knew for him, for them, for the love that had bloomed between their worlds. "Are you certain?" he asked in careful English. Zara smiled, taking his hands and placing them over her heart. "Home isn't a place," she said. "It's where your heart feels complete. Mine feels complete with you." As the rescue ship reluctantly departed, Zara and Keth walked hand in hand back to the village. The Villani people welcomed her not as a visitor, but as one of their own. Under the light of the twin moons, they began to build a life together that bridged two worlds. Zara brought human knowledge and technology to help the Villani, while they taught her their deep connection to the living world around them. Their love story became legend among both species, proving that the greatest discoveries weren't new planets or advanced technologies, but the connections that make hearts feel truly at home among the infinite stars.